See, how do I look? Where are you? Oh, you know.
Yeah, seriously? Wow, good for you. I was playing pickup. I probably could have some of the former Red Wings guys would rent the ice for so he did that for 4 or 5 years, and that was like a blast. Those guys are so much fun. And also still, they haven't done that. I better be hockey skating. I wish I haven't played hockey. We wanted to kind of round the sprint on the water is freezing, but it's only a sprint. And I still do like George a little bit. And it's tiny, the tiniest chance ever. If I get race next year, it's in 70 to 74. So this coach, Gonzalez, is really leaning on me to finally do one and only one iron. But I've done the math. I don't think I can do it in 17. And I don't want to do that and not finish. I don't know. I'm still doubting. I just doubt.
Keep moving. Yep.
Thank you. Yep. You too, Mark.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Thank you, Kathy. No, thank you.
All of a sudden, a lot of people are cutting these meetings lately. More than ever.
Hey, Steve. Good. How are you?
Yeah.
You know, last time I saw you, I was very excited for the hockey playoffs. And it didn't quite turn out to it.
Something, I don't care what it is.
Check.
Wait till I go into the, wait. Till I get into the
Okay.
office.
All right.
He's working for us as an engineer working with us.
Test, Jen. Test. Test.
The county planning board. The county planning board. County planning board. Town is discretionary. You want it to come
There's
back?
been a lot of updates.
You want it back?
Switch? Personal preference, or they just found somebody better.
No. I'm so busy. Planning board actually.
I started on this one. Actually,
Economic development.
so,
If you wanted to go away,
you know, I used to say that about GE. Every building I worked in, they took down. And I worked in a lot of them.
why does it need to go to the county?
They submitted it. It's been so many updates. They want.
Got the air on.
Aaron was always on time. Oh, okay. There you go.
Simmer down. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's Malta Town Board meeting, May 22nd, 2023. At this time, I ask that please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In tonight's moment of silence, I'd like to ask that people keep the Willett family in their prayers. They lost their daughter, Jill, who was only 44 years old after a 20-year battle with cancer. So our hearts are with them. Thank you. Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you, everyone. First item on the agenda tonight is approval of the minutes. 5/1/20.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Comments from town board members or department heads? Just real,
Yes, Mark, I have something. I've been fielding a lot of calls from residents and senior citizens about their tax assessments. And I really understand that we addressed this back in the fall. But after talking to many of the seniors in town that are on a fixed income, they cannot afford to have their assessments go up 20 to 30%. Now, I totally understand that the assessment and the budgets are two totally different things. One works with the other, and our school taxes have increased substantially, and they continue to pass. I am asking for our town board to seriously consider our options and our path forward. Again, we brought this up in the fall, talked to the assessor, had a long conversation. I know it might not go over easily, but all I'm asking for is the town board to really seriously consider our options going forward. That's number one. Number two, June 1st, I am meeting with the Iller Road residents to talk about the conversations that I've had with the transportation engineers and our options on their street regarding speed reductions. This is just the in-house conversation, so we're all on the same plane. The engineers have educated me. There's certain things that the state likes, the state doesn't, and we have to evaluate everything, not just one thing like speed bumps. There's certain issues, there's pluses to everything, and it's a sit-down conversation between them and myself, June 1st.
Craig, where, at what time is that on June 1st?
June 1st, around 7 o'clock, on one of the residents' homes. I think it was 17 Miller Road, I think it is. Just
Craig-
a
Craig, will
civil
you just-
conversation is to,
Put out a confirmation email to the rest of the board so that we know. So for those that want to attend.
more than happy to.
All right, great. Thank you.
So that we don't run afoul of the open meetings, though, I guess the majority of us probably shouldn't attend, but for those two of you that do, maybe you would just pass along some notes on the substance of the conversation
Yeah.
to the rest of us.
Yep. This is to hear their side of the story also.
Long as more than two of us don't show up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, John. I know. Anything else, Craig?
Nope, that's it.
All right, just to a couple things to address that. First and foremost, in terms of our assessment and our full value that we've embarked on for a number of years now, I know it's been discussed. I know that it creates a lot of input from residents, especially this time of year. I get that. I understand it. My assessment has gone up like probably most everybody in this room. I've tried to wrap my brain around exactly how the full value assessment works, what the benefit is, what the cost is, and at the end of the day, is it the right thing for Malta? Based on what I hear from our assessor, it is the best and most fair way to do it. As to whether or not the rest of the town board or the board in general, if we feel to continue doing that in the future, that's something that does need to be discussed. I consider our assessor the expert. I defer questions to her. Anytime I get emails, and I get a host of them, or phone calls, I will speak with her about that. So far, she has not led me astray. I know that talking with other supervisors at the county, Malta is considered really the envy of a lot of those other towns because of the way we do it, and because although it's hard to achieve, it is the fairest method, as it's been explained to me. But certainly, I will listen to the rest of the board if and when those conversations happen in the future. As Craig pointed out, we did discuss this in the fall, and to my knowledge, all of the board was in favor to continue doing things the way that we've been doing them in the past. It's always hard, never gets easy when this time of year comes around, but it's something that we've always been doing. If we choose to change that, then I'm open to conversation by all means.
Mark, may I just supplement here, please?
Sure.
I was not that I'm particularly virtuous, as you all know, but I was the one, I like 100% assessment myself personally, because it's very clear how the amount to be raised by tax is split among everybody. You can see what your market value is. It's supposed to be your assessed value. There's no fractional assessments. You don't have to do extra math. So I personally like it. And I've been involved in this area for decades. Despite the consistent message being sent out to property owners that the assessment is not to determine the total amount of money that's going to be raised. It's to determine how the total amount of money to be raised is split up amongst individual taxpayers. And that if everybody's assessment goes up the same, their split is the same. It doesn't change. It's just a proportional thing. Despite decades of seeing that explanation go out to people, they don't seem to understand it. And so in the fall, during budget discussions, I said, there's a trend in Saratoga County to get away from full value assessment. When you look at the assessing jurisdictions in the county now and how many of them assess at 100%, it's a relatively small proportion. And I said, I don't know whether it's time to move off 100%, but it's worth reflecting on. And maybe that's the same thing that we're saying here is bring in the assessor. We'll talk about the pros and cons of,
Absolutely.
of doing it and see what happens. The fact that your assessment might go down, assessments could be dropped. And the reality is if everybody's dropped the same percentage, your percentage, your share of the amount to be raised by taxes in this town in your tax bill would be the same. So your assessment is determines your share of the amount of taxes in town that you have to pay. And again, folks, sometimes they understand that, sometimes they don't. I guess I'm just tired of the effort to, explain that and people accept it because it doesn't seem to.
It's difficult, and to the, to the credit of most folks, the average person, it's very difficult to understand for the experts, the people that do this every day. So you can imagine the average individual out there that does not work in this field, it's even more difficult to understand. But also at the same time, your point's well taken, that maybe it is time to revisit what we're doing and how we're doing it.
I'm not saying we have to change it, but we have to consider our options.
Right.
One other thing that I want to state is, my wife and I had this discussion over and over, and John brought it up. Your assessment is a number to find out the assets of the town. What you really have to be looking at is your tax bills, for example, your school taxes, your library taxes, and see how that changes year to year. We don't have a general tax as such. What you really want to do is watch how much that number has changed year to year. Because your assessment in that is only to get to that end number. I know it's shocking when you see your assessment, but at the same time, it's the fair market of your house, which shows the total value of our town's assessments. You want to watch your actual tax bill year to year.
And
Even though my wife doesn't agree with me, but
Really, Margaret, the thing to do is to have, and the assessor can do this very easily, is to have her show us some data about the total increase in assessments in town, the changes in the amount that's being levied by tax, by each taxing jurisdiction in town, show that data historically, show the tax rate data, and it'll give us a picture as to the actual burden of.
absolutely, and I know Ray Lynn has been really, really good. I've expressed my concern because so many folks, the past 3-4 weeks or so, have reached out to me because of the assessments. So we put out a video on our website. I don't know, Jen, do you have any idea of knowing how many people have viewed the website or the page link that Ray Lynn provided?
I have Civic Plus looking at our Google Analytics because there seems to be a problem with it.
Okay.
As soon
But-
as that's fixed, I could certainly find that number.
All right, well, thank you. But also, to her credit, trying to work with folks and trying to get information out as we try to do routinely. We're trying to let people know this is how it works. This is how she's looking at it, how the town looks at it, why the numbers are the way they are. So because it's an unknown to a lot of people to fully wrap their head around how it works. So she's doing her best to get the information out. We're doing our best to get that information out. But I understand. I mean, we're all in this together, so I totally get that. On another note, I just wanted to touch briefly on the Miller Road for any of the folks that live on Miller Road. With our dedicated patrol that we have through the Sheriff's Department now, I was able to reach out to the liaison who has assigned deputies and focused even more so on Miller Road. Much like some of the emails, or most of the emails that I've replied to and on phone conversations with folks that have called about speeding, about not seeing state police or sheriff's departments there. The answer is what people don't want to hear, and that is that they can't be everywhere at once. They have upped their patrols. The sheriff's department has upped their patrols. State police have upped their patrols. I've talked with both agencies, and they have no reason to lie to me. They tell me the truth. They've been there. They will continue to go there as best that they can. But as I've told people, and as Abe reminded me when I called the state police and sheriff's department, it's a big town. There's a lot of roads. Speeding on Miller Road is not the only issue. I wish it was the only issue we had in this town. But quite frankly and honestly, it's not. They have other places that they have to be, and I want them there. So we're trying to keep the entire town safe. That's not to downgrade or belittle Miller Road folks. It's just, this is what we're dealing with, and we're trying to work on that. And hopefully Craig will gain some traction at his meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to put some things in place that will keep people safe on Miller Road, safer than what's going on right now. So I just wanted to add that. One more thing real quickly. Kristen, our Parks and Rec Director, I want to thank you, as well as everyone that participated in the Armed Forces Day Parade that we had this past Saturday. It was a beautiful day for a parade. We had a great turnout. I think there were more people actually this year than last year. And the weather was equally as nice last year, a little bit warmer, but nonetheless, it was nice. Great day for a parade. Everyone seemed to enjoy themselves. We had SLIPID, Saratoga Lake Improvement District was there, and at the community center handing out plants, buffer in a bag for people that live on Saratoga Lake. So this is something that obviously we haven't been doing this for a long, long time, this parade, but I can see just since I've been supervisor and prior to that, the first couple of years that I attended, that it's growing in numbers. So that's a good thing for our community to see that, and I'm sure that it's going to continue to grow even more. So I just wanted to put that word out to thank you and all of the staff and the people that participated for that. That's all I have. Al, what do you have to say?
I enjoyed myself on the parade. It was a lot of fun. Other than that,
I
nothing.
noticed you had a lot of flags, though, at the end of the parade.
I gave my last one to Kathy. She'll tell you.
Kiss up. Anybody else? Department heads have anything? Nothing? Okey dokey. Comments or questions from town residents? Yes, sir. Ooh, everyone wants to run up to now. I was pointed at, sir, but you can go first. You in the front row.
Thank you. I'm John Fraser. I live at 111 Fifth Street in Meadow Shore Colony. I understand the 100% assessment as a reasonable principle. Our assessment has gone up 27% this year based on very few sales of very unique properties. My property is about 2,800 square feet. So it is a non-conforming property that doesn't have services from the town of Malta. So you're asking us to pay a greater share of taxes here for lesser services. So I would like you as a board to consider how you're looking at both assessed value as well as the equity and services that are being provided to different residents based on the condition of their properties and the type of properties, because this is a neighborhood where conforming and non-conforming housing have completely different ways of selling and different ways of being interpreted. So we're being treated with a broad brush, and yet it seems to be unfairly discriminating against those of us who live in lower income homes. Thank you.
The
Thank you,
one,
John.
one thing I would just say is tomorrow is grievance day.
I'm aware. I've submitted,
if you
I'm
have-
submitting a complaint, okay? So, yeah, I've got a grievance. I'm
Okay.
saying to the board, I don't like my assessment. That is not the issue here. I will grieve that separately. What I'm saying is that we are a unique kind of property in our neighborhood, and we are not treated equitably in terms of services. So I would like this board to think how you look at the assessed value in terms of distribution of tax burden when you look at our tax bills, because I think that you're asking us to pay more than our fair share.
You make a great argument, sir, except the law does not work that way. And
I'm
yeah,
aware that you would
Yeah,
do
we
something.
don't, we have no prerogative to
Well,
change the
you
system.
could go back to the assessor and say this shouldn't be treated as a neighborhood because the neighborhood is wrongly defined. That's another question,
The neighborhoods are, okay. well,
because you're not treating us fairly. So we need to look at what is fair. That's what I'm asking.
It's pretty much based on the market and different groupings throughout town. That's my understanding. And
I understand the
It's
assessment.
state
I'm
regulates it.
suggesting you look at how you assess taxes and what your tax principles are based on equity and fairness. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will speak with our assessor about this matter. Thank you, John.
Mark was pointing at me. My name is Clifton Van Gilder, and I live in High Point, and I'm the treasurer of the HOA board, but I'm not here to speak for the board. I'm here to compliment the County Board of Supervisors for passing emergency authorization concerning the migrants that are going to be shipped up from New York City. For anyone that hasn't heard, Governor Hochul has just announced that she's going to be providing all migrants with funding and work permits, and that just piles on a much bigger issue for all of us residents, because these folks have not all been vetted. We don't know if there are criminals. We don't know if there are people that are seriously ill with diseases that we got rid of a long time ago or we've never heard of. I look at the government as our protector, from the executive office at the president all the way down to the town level. And I believe personally that when all of those higher levels fail, it falls to our board to protect us. And I would ask that in all ways that you possibly can, from a legal standpoint, stop the flood. Because I think our local businesses are going to suffer terribly when these folks show up with vouchers and take up all the hotels and start camping on ground now that the governor said she's searching for properties all through the state to place migrants. Maybe we should start pushing back at this level to the county and all the way back to slow this down. Whatever you can do, by whatever means, we got our attorney here. Maybe there's ways that we can speak out individually against this. And that was my point.
Thank you very much. And yes, our number one goal is to keep our folks safe and secure here. That's first and foremost. Has nothing to do with not wanting to help anybody. The decision is to help who we have in our neighborhoods, our towns, our county. We want to make sure that they maintain safety and well-being, and that's what we're responsible for first, and that's what we're trying to do.
Very good. I understand that the county sheriff reports to the county, but if there are people who are coming in and doing criminal acts, I hope they're ready to act quickly, because folks are going to have to tear their stuff down. Everything I've heard about migrants is they're desperate people that will take anything that isn't protected.
Yes.
Just a warning for everybody, but
Right.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else? Wait a minute, this woman over here, I know she wants to get up badly. Not really? Come on.
My name is Barb Fenton. I live at 20 Mayapple Way, and I've been a resident of Luther Forest for 37 years when I built my home. It's hard for me to believe that 15 years have passed since the residents of Luther Forest, specifically those of us on Mayapple Way, were impacted by the building of Ellsworth Commons. We find ourselves once again in the same situation with no consideration from the town board as to the impact of on those of us who you were elected to represent. You allowed the clear cutting of the forested areas right up to our backyards 15 years ago, which depreciated the value of our homes, caused a major destruction of trees, impacted wildlife on our properties, and destroyed our peace and tranquility of living in a forest. This is an area we were told was forever wild when we built and purchased our homes. 10 years ago, we successfully fought the building of the firehouse on the same piece of property that you now have approved for the New York State Police Barracks. Let me be clear, we are not against the firemen or the state police, as we have been depicted, and fully support them staying in Malta. We, however, do feel once again that this is not an appropriate place to build this facility and that there are other options available. Over the years, the residents of Luther Forest have been impacted from all directions by development. We have that one small plot of forested land that leaves us a buffer from the commercial development which is happening in the town. It is a gateway to our community where we have a bike path which is used by a great many children and adults, as well as residents of the group home on Mayapple Way. We were given no notification as we have been promised in the past. Instead, in the midst of a global pandemic, as you had meetings via Zoom with obscure mention several times to selling the land to the New York State Police for $1 with the intention of building this facility. Some of you are still present on the board as you were 15 years ago, as well as 10 years ago, and knew full well that this would not be accepted by the residents of Luther Forest. Yet it proceeded with no opportunity for the residents to state their concerns. Those of you who were not on the board at that time get no free pass, as this has always been an issue, and you would have had to have had blinders on not to know about it. As a matter of fact, Darren O'Connor, who was our town supervisor at the time this took place, once held the position of counsel to the New York State Police. No conflict of interest there, right? Enough is enough. We have over 500 signatures of people who have signed a petition, more every day, that are outraged by this. It is time for you to represent the people of this town who you were elected to represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Oscar, is he?
Everyone's fighting over the podium tonight. Gonna tick numbers next time.
Well, this is a little lighter side of things here, I think.
What did we do wrong?
No, you didn't do anything wrong. I'm not very smart, and
We're
so-
not good unless you're
and,
telling us we did something wrong.
So, my question has to do with the roundabout and the resolution you have in tonight's packet.
Correct.
And if I'm understanding it correctly, East Line Road is a boundary between the town of Ballston and the town of Malta.
Also correct.
So I'm wondering when Ballston is going to chip in for the study. And
I've asked that same question.
because I'm not quite sure why the town of Malta has to pay the full price when, you could ask the people on Miller Road where those cars are coming from. It's probably the town of Ballston.
We have to do it because the town of Ballston doesn't want to give us any money. We have a problematic intersection there,
Yep.
as everyone knows
Yep.
that travels that route. I want it fixed. We want it fixed for the safety of people. Mercy apparatus cannot pass through there at gridlock. It's a narrow road. You can't utilize a shoulder. If you have to get to urgent care or from urgent care or a fire apparatus, you're not going to get through there. This has been basically talked about, planned, so to speak, for a number of years and hasn't moved anywhere. So for 6 weeks, I battled and fought at CDTC in Albany to get funding for this and managed only to get $1 million for engineering study only. I'm trying the best that I can to get that intersection approved and improved. We got to start someplace.
Now, am I correct that Route 67 is a county road?
That's a state road.
State road. And so East Line Road heading south from if 67 is a county road.
Yes.
Okay, does the county have any financial responsibility for the roundabout?
Actually, the $1 million that I got through CDTC was actually because of Saratoga County, because some of the projects that they had earmarked and were awarded federal money, they actually deferred that to the town of Malta because they see the importance of that intersection getting improved.
So this particular, and it's got a name that I'm not going to try to pronounce, program.
Martelli?
Thank you. It is a federal program.
Correct.
So it's a 20% local and 80% federal.
Also
So
correct.
the state has no stake in this.
No,
Correct.
The state has a small stake. It's
very
not that-
small.
Yeah.
Okay,
Most of the money is federal.
Most of it is federal.
Okay.
It's-
thank you.
Thank you. I told you I should have had numbers.
Oscar, you gotta jump.
Hi,
Hello there.
my name is Lawrence Lieberman. I'm a homeowner in Luther Forest. In the past month, I've learned that the Town Council of Malta have sold a parcel of land adjoining the community in Luther Forest to the state for the purpose of building a state police barracks. The property in question is on historic Dunning Street, between the log cabin and the circle at the intersection of Dunning Street and Partridge Drum. The plan identified it for 4 acres of forested land to be clear-cut and a 6,000 square foot building with room for expansion to be built with parking lot spaces for 30 cars. The area will be lit with high-intensity lighting and installed with a 100-foot communication tower. There will be 2 exits to this facility, one on Dunning Street and one on Partridge Drum. The entrance on Dunning Street will be complicated by the traffic circle and the crossover or walking bike path for the community. And the one on Partridge Drum will cross over private property belonging to the HOA of Fox Wanda West, which is used by the community as a walking and bike path. To be clear, I support continued presence of the state police in Malta. However, to place a barracks in residential community where children play, where people walk, where forever wild forested areas will be clear-cut, where homes which now have forested backyards, like all others in Fox Wanda West, will have a state police barracks, 30 feet from the back doors. It is poor planning on the part of Malta Town Council. Additionally, this is in direct opposition to the 2023 town plan to promote the preservation of green spaces and forested areas in the town of Malta. I have learned that 10 years ago, the same 4 acres was scheduled for a firehouse. The community residents petitioned the town council with 500 signatures and that firehouse to be located in another location close by, and in fact, that is what transpired. Obviously, since we now again have over 500 signatures, the community that you represent thinks that the plan to place a state police barracks in a residential community is a reckless and dangerous plan that completely disregards the community you represent. There have been statements that unless we give the state police this land, they will move out of Malta. Well, the Save Luther Forest Committee has identified a number of other locations on major roads that are already cleared and available, even when one owned by the town. So there are other, more appropriate options in Malta, designated as commercial lots that are potential new homes in Malta for the state police. And we'd like to see them there. There have also been statements by the town council that community has been given ample time to have input and that they were just not paying attention about the sale of the property in question to the state. The item on the agenda in reference to this was referred to as police services. So no, the community was not informed that the proposed lot was for sale to the state for $1 for the purpose of a police barracks in a residential neighborhood. There have also been statements by the town council members that it is out of our hands. Your fight is with the state police. The town council representatives are elected public servants who are entrusted with the care of the community and its residents. Your actions have weakened the trust of those who have given you the authority to act on their behalf. The town council at this juncture needs to support the constituents they represent and communicate with the state that if this project is forced upon the residents of Luther Forest, it will create, and I quote, a public relations nightmare at best. The town council should convey another town parcel, not in a residential neighborhood, to the state police in exchange for the parcel given to them. The parcel in question should then be returned to its original designation as parkland. This would be in keeping with the town plan and the will of the community of Luther Forest. And I just want to submit a document identifying this property as being parkland. So I'm not sure who I should hand this to.
You can give it to the town clerk.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Do you
And
have
at
any
this time,
questions
I'm
for
going to
me?
suspend anyone else coming forward because I feel the need to address, first of all, that was a scathing letter, and that's why I'm going to address this issue with the state police barracks, despite what folks have acknowledged, or I should say encouraged me not to do. But I feel that because there were a lot of mistruths and misinformation in that letter, I'm going to do so right now. I think it's important for everyone, especially those in the room tonight that are in opposition to this barracks, to understand one primary factual bit of information. This property was never designated parkland. It was never designated Forever Wild. If anyone in this room thinks so, this document right here will prove that that's not the case. This is back from 1977, when that property was given to the town of Malta. 2 parcels, one 4 acres, one nearly 40 acres. One was designated to be a park. It is a park. It's on Plains Road. This was, and I quote, "The developer agrees to deed without cost to the proper legal entity an agreed tract of land of adequate size within the district for a fire station at a site to be determined by the town of Malta and a developer. The developer shall deed to the town of Malta also without cost a site for a municipal office building of adequate size within the district as determined by the town and a developer." That's this parcel, sir. It was never designated to be Forever Wild. It's been thought to be Forever Wild because nothing has been on it since 1977. It's been treed. It has never been designated anything other than what it is. It's just never been used. Now we fast forward. The state police never threatened to leave Malta unless they had that piece of property. Not that I've ever heard. Perhaps maybe the board that approved such of an action, most of which are here, Cynthia Young's in the audience. Cynthia, do you remember anyone ever saying that they were definitely going to leave? She was a board member at the time. Thank you. So that is a false statement. Clear cut. No one, repeat, no one ever said that this was going to be a clear-cut parcel of land. I've met with the architects in February, with my planning board, or my planning department. No one ever said clear-cut. They said the exact opposite, because number one, we acknowledged, as they reminded us, this is the state. The state's owned this for well over a year. They didn't even have to come to us. They came to us out of a courtesy. They showed us what they wanted to do, and they said, what are your comments? One of the comments in my notes was to provide adequate buffering for the residents in a neighboring area. Their reply was, trust me, the state police want their privacy as well. They never said they were going to clear cut. They were going to minimize the cutting as much as possible. This map right here that was circulated, I don't know if you folks did it, it shows a map, which is wrong. This is not what the architect provided to the town in February. I don't know who drew this. It's a great job. Looks like a Walmart parking lot. It's not the State Police Barracks on Dunning Street. Bright lights, we don't allow that, by the way. It's all down lighting. But there is no entrance to be on Partridge Drum. Also was brought up in February. It upsets me because people start speaking as if they know the facts when they do not. And then other people hear things and they take it verbatim as facts. And then it snowballs into what we have now. Everyone is up in arms because of that map right here, which is not what they're planning at all. Out of our hands. You said, well, you can't say it's out of your hands, town board. The state owns the property. What are we as town leaders supposed to do? Do you think if I call up Governor Hochul, she's going to listen to me when I say, please don't make that a barracks? It's not going to happen. This has been state land for over a year under a previous administration, a previous board. We get constantly beat up to unring a bell that was rung. Can you tell me how I do that? How does this board do that? I'm curious. I'd like to know. I don't think anyone can answer that. Excuse me, I'm not done talking. I asked a question, it's rhetorical, okay? I'm not done. Report or support our constituents. That's what we do up here throughout the year. Support our constituents. Cloak of secrecy, because this was done during COVID. I outlined, which by the way, one HOA president has approached me, one, since this whole thing first got blown up in the press and then misinformation got spread. One HOA president. I think there's more than one in Luther Forest. He had the decency to come to me and ask questions. And then I had another constituent reached out and she asked questions, which I provided in a lengthy email. States everything that's fact. We had, I think, 3 meetings. It was announced on the agenda. For someone to say that we don't provide agendas is an outright lie. We have to provide agendas for every meeting. Are they the agendas that you want to see that lists out every single thing to the detail? Probably not. That's where you have to own a little responsibility to show up at meetings. If you want to know everything that's going on in your town, I suggest you show up for meetings, because we're not going to come and knock on people's doors and say, do you know this is going on? And I can speak from experience. I had land rezoned next door to my home a dozen years or so ago. I had no idea it was rezoned. I didn't come down here and scream and yell at the town board and say, you should have told me. They went within the letter of the law. That's what we still do. I don't know what else I can tell people that are upset about this. We have zero control over that land, and that ended over a year ago. I don't know what more you want us to do. Honest to God, I don't know. But I can tell you this, I don't like people getting scared and in fear when they see this. This is not what was provided by the architect to this town board at all. It's not even close. That's all I have to say.
The other thing that I want to say is that there were some of us here that were on the board when that went through. We were as transparent as can be. Yes, it happened during COVID. Now, don't go and say it was planned because of COVID. It wasn't, because I supported it because I'm concerned with safety. Cynthia Young, who's sitting right there, she supported it too and said it was a great thing. Have you asked her? Have you? What was her response?
Go ahead. He's asked you to go.
Cynthia?
I'm not gonna get into this here in public meeting.
Okay.
Railing at the residents.
I just want to clear the facts because I'm very concerned about the rumors and emotions in that area. I live there too. I'm a stone's throw from it. My feeling is safety comes first. I know for a fact it wasn't a park. I tried to tell you, you didn't listen to me. I called the TU. I said to them today, you got to put the facts out there. I know for a fact they haven't, but they put in every one of the Luther Force's statements over and over and over and over. And that concerns me. I got her attention, though.
Thank you, Craig. And for those that aren't here for the state police, I just want to apologize if I'm irritated because much like Malta Gardens, when misinformation is spread and it scares people in my town, I don't like it. I take offense to it. I don't care for it. I think it's unintentional, and I'm sorry? It's all of our towns. Well, it's my town in the sense that you know who gets the phone calls when things go wrong? I do. The emails, I get them. Well, thank you. I appreciate your comments. Yes, sir.
I just want to correct a couple of things. Sir, can you go to the mic?
Yes, please.
And speak into it also.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Janey. We're going off the tax documents from 2008 that originally said that piece of property was a municipal park. And then in 2008, it was switched to residential at that point. And that was the only reason for the tax document for it to be switched at that time. There was no other reason to have that in there in the tax documents. So according to that, it was a municipal park prior to 2008. Now, I understand what you're saying with your stuff there, but we're going off of this.
Sir, just to clarify, it could be that the assessor has to put a property classification code on every parcel. And what the assessor did at the time, who would have been Sue Otis, has nothing to do with its actual legal status in terms of its restricted use. So, I mean, it could have been misunderstanding, but as you can see, it clearly was never designated legally as parkland.
Right, well, okay, and then a couple people on your town board have mentioned many times through social media and other platforms that be careful, the state police are going to leave if they don't get this property. So we are going off of that also.
I've never said that.
No, Craig Warner has said that and Tim Dunn has said that.
What's to keep them here?
Let's not get into that argument at the moment here. I mean, there's really no reason for that barracks. I mean, if they get called on a call, they come from their location where their trooper car is located, not from, just like you even said, this new barracks is going to be basically empty all the time. So they're not being called from the barracks. So it doesn't matter where the barracks is located.
Sir, you could be right that Tim and Craig made that statement on social media. That doesn't change a thing.
Right.
The state of New York owns that property right now.
Understand. Now you said you're working with the state troopers on the architect as far as the maps.
No.
The charts.
No, what I said was we met. That was a courtesy meeting on their behalf. It was not a requirement. They don't have to meet with us. They don't have to ask us a thing. So we thank them for showing up. But they did listen at that meeting to what our concerns were based on what we know of our neighborhoods, of our residents. That's where the Partridge Drum entrance went away. That's where the configuration of where the building went away. That's where, hey, leave as much buffering as possible there, went away. But at the end of the day, they could take what we said. That's nice that we agreed that day. We're still not going to do that.
Right.
We have no control over that.
Yes, I understand. Let us see the maps, the charts sometime. I mean, we can stop by your office and.
As I said, What upsets me is when folks do not reach out with questions, but with accusations. To me, that's one of the worst things you can do. If you want to know information, call me up, stop in. I will talk to people, anyone that comes in at any time. I did with this HOA president and explained to him every single one of his concerns, answered every question to the very best of my ability. He was the only one that did that. Everyone else, it seems, took a word from that person, what they read on the TU or whatever, and they ran with it. It's very, very frustrating because it scares people when they start spreading that same venom when it's not true.
Right.
That's what's upsetting.
Mark, you're prepared to share that diagram, right, with these folks, whoever wants to see it, right?
Some folks say that I shouldn't share it.
Wow.
You know,
Hold up, folks. Steve,
Well,
I'll defer to our legal.
Well, I mean, first off, they can also reach out to the state police to request to see those documents.
I've reached out to the state police as well.
Secondly, I don't know the circumstances of it being delivered, so I'd have to look into it to advise whether it's confidential, but it certainly was given in an incomplete version. It's not the completed version. That may not even be the final plan. So if it is disclosed, everyone just needs to understand what they would be obtaining. And I can reach out to the state police council to ask for.
If you could do that, I'd appreciate it, because I would love to have people see it. I haven't released it because I've been advised that I shouldn't release it, because if for no other reason, because this is the state of New York, they could very well say, we're going to do something a little bit different and not even let the town of Malta know. And then we're going to get filleted for doing that because, well, you showed us a document that showed what they're going to do, and they didn't do that.
Right, it's not finished.
You might
All I
better-
can say is what they provided that day is 180 degrees different from this.
Sir, you have the benefit of a neighbor who's a learned legal counsel. I mean, she's very familiar with the process of using the Freedom of Information Law. You might better go to the state police, because as has been pointed out here, you might get a more up-to-date, if they release it, it would probably be more
Well, we
up-to-date.
have. We've done a couple of FOILs, and
Have they
it's
provided-
not at the state police. It's at the OGS.
OGS, yep.
Yeah, their planning department there and building department. And we have done a FOIL with them.
So you're going to get the most, if you get anything, you're going to get.
But we got
more
nothing yet. They
recent-
said we don't have anything yet. That was a month ago. So, but we are continuing that process. Yeah.
I haven't received anything to date yet either, and I've requested the same thing.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oscar.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. You're next, I promise, Oscar. If you could stand up to the podium and address and who you are, please.
My name's Linda Valenti, and I'm at Mayapple Way as well. And I just want to clarify, because you made some accusations about the Save the Forest Committee, about the mistruths. We based issues about even the map. It was based upon the November, I believe, or the December 7th meeting, held town board meeting, which I don't have the minutes with me. I usually bring them, but I didn't have them, which they indicated a 6,000 square foot building with 25 to 30 parking spaces. And they also indicated an entrance onto Partridge Drum with the main entrance, I believe they refer to it as, and then having the one on Dunning. So that map is the only thing we had. We have never heard anything from this town at all, in a newsletter, on a website, as to anything as to the proposal. Is even that the land was sold to
Do you
the
know who
state
your
police.
HOA president is? Who's your HOA
It
president?
doesn't matter. HOA president didn't get the information. I'm telling you from when you sold the property or when you were thinking as to selling the property. There's nothing on the website. In the minutes, and I know you can say the agenda said, one case it said police services, a very general, it didn't say police services Dunning Street, Luther Forest area. So I think you're
It
making
was
some very
discussed-
unfair remarks to us as to
in accusing
I think
us
they were
of some
very,
mistruths
they were
and
very accurate
misinformation.
remarks,
Because we
ma'am.
didn't know, you're saying now you had a meeting with the state police, that they showed you some different plans. We have no knowledge of that.
I think
had
that
no
my,
no- I mean, no
my
knowledge
statements,
before of
my
that.
statements were very accurate because what you are saying is not true. And you're selling it as being true. You're telling people
No,
and you're
no,
getting
that's not-
signatures.
We indicated, sir, that when we went door to door to get petitions, and we've been getting petitions signed, that this is based upon what we saw in the minutes, what it would appear that it could look like. A 6,000 square foot building with 25 to 30 parking spaces, with an entrance onto Partridge Drum and an entrance onto Dunning Street. That is what we've never said this is it.
Linda,
Uh,
Looks to me like it's saying this is it.
As I recall, I
It's
attended
not.
that first meeting. And I do recall two entrances. Then the entrance.
And that may have
went
been.
away.
Only thing
But
we
much
have
like South
ever
Shore,
heard
everything
until
changes.
recently. And you admit
No.
that they can change their plans. They could clear cut the whole thing if they chose.
A simple phone call and I could have told you that
They
that is
could have
not their
done that.
plans.
We've been your advocate. That's why we met with them. We saw their plans, they took their plans and they rolled them
We
up
have-
afterwards and they left. That's the only
I
thing.
just want to
about it.
clarify that. As
In
I said, it was in the
2019
minutes. We based it on the minutes. That was the only information we had at the time.
Mark,
So to say that that depiction is untrue, they have lights now. They have a tower now looming over, a huge tower.
Yes, Steve.
So I just want to be clear on that.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes, Steve.
I think we got an agenda that still needs to go forward.
Yes, we do, but we got Oscar wants to talk.
Been waiting for.
He's been told he had to sit down 3 different times now, so.
I listen, Steve will tell you that. I'm here for Mr. Willett. He was going to be here, obviously he couldn't. I just have a handout for all of you. It's something I'd like to work out with the town for Mr. Willett. I don't have any interest in it. Thanks, Oscar.
thank you.
I represent Mr. Willett. As you all know, he owns a piece of property right abutting a piece of property owned by the Meadowview Estates Homeowners Association. They in turn gave the town an easement for stormwater management. If you look at page 2, my client spent money and he had Nicholas Alexander, an arborist, come out. There are trees abutting my client's property on the land owned by Meadowview Homeowners Association that the town has an easement. The problem is the maintenance. Those trees are gonna fall. You can read his report. I am far from an arborist. I'm from Brooklyn. The trees I don't know anything about. But I think you remember 2 years ago in the state park, someone was driving through and a tree fell and killed him.
I was actually there.
Yeah, thank you for your helping. We don't want that to happen. Mr. Willett's driveway is right there. Look at the arborist report. He says the trees are gonna come down. And that to me is pretty scary. Susceptible to breaking and/or uprooting during high wind or snow events. Loose soil. Several of the trees could cause damage to structures located on the property. Although no one can accurately predict when a tree will fall, it is my professional opinion that the risk of failure of one or more of these trees is likely. And I think he'd be an expert giving his qualifications. 2 representatives of Meadowbrook Estates are here. Lisa Brisson, who's the vice president of the Homeowners Association, and Bob Braun, who's the secretary. I've spoken to them. I propose that the Meadowbrook Homeowners Association, the town, and I on Mr. Willett's behalf, have a meeting. Let's decide who's going to fix it, how we're going to pay for it, so on and so forth. I was informed by Leah Everhart, planning board attorney, that the town has not authorized her to meet. I understand the town attorney has a conflict. so he can't be part of this. I understand that. So if we could just get a meeting together and decide what's going to happen. I don't want Mr. Willett to get himself damaged, his family damaged, or his car or something like that. That's all. No one's looking for anything like that.
And obviously, none of us want to.
No.
But we also need to do our due diligence to look out for the liability of the town.
Yeah.
And as to whether or not we are actually responsible to undertake removal of trees.
I don't know who is, but it's property owned by Meadowview Estates, and the town has an easement. It's not Mr. Willett's property, but it would affect his property.
Right.
Mark, could we perhaps ask for an attorney-client privilege meeting with Ms. Everhart on some occasion in the future so she can advise us
Her letter's in there.
accordingly?
She said the town told her no.
Yes, John, we can do that.
Good,
Okay.
sure. I'll wait, not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Yes.
Folks who live over Luther Forest and concerned about the state police barracks. As a retired member of the state police, I can assure you, the state police have always had and pride themselves on having a good relationship with the community where they have barracks at. And I can also tell you that state government moves slow. That barracks is not going in anytime soon. Any concerns you have, you may want to reach out to Troop G, maybe ask for a meeting with the major, Dennis Shager, and express your concerns. You've already reached out to them? Okay.
We haven't got any responses back from anyone.
Okay.
And we've also reached out, well, along with Troop G's, also the superintendent at the same time with the PIO.
Okay.
And no one has responded to us at all since this question.
Okay. I can't answer for that, but I can just tell you from my experience that the state police have no intentions, have never have, want to just go in and trample on the community. They exact opposite. They want to have a good relationship with the community that they represent.
What you said about the trees is what happened. If you saw what happened behind my house when they went up to that area, when you start cutting those trees, they have no root bases. The next ones start to fall, the next ones start to fall, and it's a domino effect. So whether they clear cut or not all the way back, that's what's gonna happen. Because you can walk behind that way and see what has happened since Ellsworth went in. It looks like a demilitarized zone, all the way down.
All right.
And Mr. Warner, for you to sit there and say that nobody told us the state police would leave, you confronted us in that parking lot.
You know what I stated? You said to me that there's other properties on Route 9, which they could move there instead. The possibility that they're gonna go there is probably slim.
You said to us, you want them to leave.
You said a lot of things to me.
We didn't say anything, you reminded us.
No,
All right,
some swear words too.
I'd like to point out, just the email that I just gave you a copy of. During our meeting that we had with the architect, my planning director was with my confidential secretary, a number of us were there. And again, it was a courtesy meeting with them because they didn't have to show up. What you'll see at the base of that, at the bottom of that email rather, there were, from my personal notes, what was brought up and discussed. And you'll notice at the very end there, we had basically suggested to state police and to their architect that it would behoove them to not only give a presentation to the public, but also to the town board. I'd still like to see that. I'm with you in that I haven't heard back from the state police as of yet. So I understand your frustration when it comes to that. Even if it was just a courtesy, whatever, I would like to hear something. Yes, ma'am, in the back. Could you come up here, please? Only because we have people that are at home and they may want to hear you and know who you are.
Hi, Christine Kornman, Luther Forest resident. I just have a small question. My understanding, the lease of the state barracks is ending this year. So where are they going in the next, to this
still, obviously still providing the same service that they are, because they're gonna still,
I can't answer that.
they're still
I
gonna
honestly
provide the
don't
same
know.
service, I presume, because they're gonna make the phone calls and just, patrol and everything like they usually do, same thing with the sheriff's department. So I don't understand the controversy of,
Could I suggest you get in touch with your state
well, my
assembly?
husband's a law enforcement officer as well, 23
So I
years,
can't
so-
suggest?
No, go ahead,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
could you, I suggest you get in touch with Assemblywoman Warner's office.
Mm-hmm.
She will have easier access to that information than we might. It could be that the landlord's going to give them an extension. We just don't know that. But they're likely to be responsive to Assemblywoman Warner's inquiry about whether they are going to continue to be in Malta when the lease, as we know it, is up.
And who owns the actual building that they're currently residing in?
Private owner does.
That's a private owner that they rent.
Okay, because that's never been disclosed. I was just wondering.
Right, it's private.
Who had to disclose that? I mean, it's in
No, I
the
was just
public
wondering who
records.
owns
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's,
I heard that.
No, it's
you
it's a private owner.
Because I've heard for did you actually know that, you didn't know that they didn't own it?
no, we knew that. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's in the public records who owns that land in the building. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else have anything? Kathy, of course. That's okay, because I need to find my agenda, Kathy, while you're approaching the mic.
Here.
Oh, thanks.
I like how you say Kathy, of course. Actually, my last name is Eitzman. But, so I wanted to thank the Park and Rec, the Town of Malta, the Roundabout Runners, the Malta Mile, everybody that put together that parade and walk run. Murray challenged me that morning to walk, so I did. I think they actually held up the parade because I hadn't finished yet. But I won in my age group, so I got first place. I was the only entry, but I'm working on getting my Malta seniors in it, and they thought, what am I doing inviting competition? But that's okay. So it was a wonderful event. I loved it, and I saw everybody pass me at just past the half mile, and I'm walking with a number on me, and I'm like, I guess I have to finish now because I have a number on me. So I'm very proud of myself, and thank you so much for all supporting me. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else? All right, I do see a hand in the back.
Hi, my name is Susan Nuttall. I also live in Luther Forest. My question mostly, Councilman Hartzell, is for you. I was reviewing some of the meetings, and I see in here that you had some concerns about unconstrained ownership by the state of New York, that they might wind up doing things that we or those that are sitting in the future might be concerned with. Is there a 99-year lease option that we may be able to do? And basically, what you were told, and I'm assuming this is what actually transpired since I never saw anything else further about it. It said, Councilman Horton said, my willingness, perhaps I'm growing too skeptical, too fast, but a grant to just give land in the state of New York without any constraints on it, they can be sometimes difficult to deal with. So if there's another path forward. And it said, Attorney Gottman responded, certainly I'll follow up on that question, but my sense is that, at least from the state police position on guidance from the Attorney General, that they want only unrestricted. They want, and they are not going to enter into any kind of agreement otherwise.
I mean, that was the answer, as I recall, was that they would not take the land subject to any constraint at all. It had to be.
This land that we gifted to them for $1, they were making all the rules, it seems like, kind of.
Well, I mean, they committed, to us that they were going to build a police facility here. And the judgment of the board at the time, of whom only 3 of us were on it, and so please, be fair to Mark and Al, because they didn't vote on this. Craig and Tim Dunn and I did. The judgment was that there was federal funding that was designated
Yep, I read that.
for this. and that in the total picture, we felt enough confidence that the project would be built there to convey the land to them. And, that was the basis for, the vote at the time.
Okay, my other question is, John, unfortunately, you're the only one I guess I can address this with, is after the firehouse and after Ellsworth Commons, did it not occur to you at all to reach out to any of the citizens that you had talked to before? You came over to Barb's house, you saw Ellsworth, you saw what it did there, you knew we were upset about the fire, you were around for all of this, from beginning to end. And I feel like maybe you should have had some certain responsibility to notify people when you knew full well that they were opposed to what was going to go there before. I just feel that it was it would have been the right thing to do to let us know exactly what was going on there. And I don't, I can
respect
get
your
into an
opinion on that.
argument
Yeah.
about minutes and all that and the pandemic, but I'm sorry, the bottom line is, I feel there was a lack of transparency, just like with Beacon Hill, just like with a few other things, but especially this particular location, because it has been a hot issue for all of us residents on May Apple for 15 years.
I'm not going to argue with you. I respect your opinion. The thing that really tipped the issue, in favor of voting to support it for me was the extent of the law enforcement problems, increasing law enforcement problems we've had in town. My fear over what we're seeing and have seen with, serious drug issues in town. That really tipped me in favor of taking action to increase the chance that we were going to have the state police in the center of our town to provide public safety. That's it. I'm not asking to be satisfied with that. That's the explanation, though.
My other concern is, since they can do basically anything they want in this location, couldn't they be having hearings there, bringing prisoners in there, with the new bail reform that they're going to be released? I mean, this could possibly happen, and this could be in our backyard.
I'm not sure I'm following all the things you said, bail
Okay.
reform and released. I'm not sure what that means.
If they end up having I forget what they call them when people come in.
Public hearing?
A hearing,
Well, they're,
Arraignments.
when people are arraigned,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
that's the
when
word.
they're booked?
Arraigned.
people are arraigned here in town court, right?
Okay, that's
Right next door.
now, but
And the judge either releases them or doesn't, And if they're held, they're surrendered to the sheriff for custody, right?
also the
That
sheriff
doesn't-
does all that, not the state police. The
There
state
are
police
no
isn't
holding,
involved at all?
there are no holding cells in any state police barracks in the state.
Okay,
And whenever state police release somebody who's been arrested, they got to turn them over to somebody else if they're under the influence of anything, if they're intoxicated, et cetera, or if they have their own transportation and they are able to drive, depending on what the offense is. But no, we will not, state police do not release prisoners out the front door where they can just walk through an adjoining neighborhood. 24 years with the state police, I've never seen it.
okay. I guess my only other concern is that when Captain Latardo, I believe his name was, gave the information, his spiel on why that was the only place in Malta that would do, he said that he wanted the room for expansion so that he could possibly bring in other agencies. Like, we don't know, what's that mean? Like, other agencies? And one of them, I think it was O'Connor, who said that he was hoping to get the sheriff and the state police to co-locate in that same location.
Um,
And,
That
I
I
mean, that's
haven't-
what was in the, that's all I can tell you from what was documented
When was that
in
from,
there.
ma'am? When was that?
That was the. 2020. Yeah,
2020?
yes.
Yeah, the
12/20.
state police did send representatives to meet with the town board, in a public meeting and did talk about the project. But, no, I'm not going to argue with you or be, I appreciate you have views on this, but the reality is the vote has been taken, they own the land. If you want to hold me accountable, that's your prerogative in the process. I'm happy, I explained myself in terms of what my thinking was. I'm not going to run for reelection, so, you can put someone else in my position. But I think hopefully the discussion tonight's Going to head off in a little more positive direction to open some communication with the state police so there's a better understanding of what their plans actually are. And, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic that, you know, there'll be some sensitivity to the concerns that have been expressed.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing is also is, living in the forest, I hear each side of it. There are people that are very close to us that have approached me saying that they were thrilled about it. You're saying no,
I'm sure there is, I have no doubt.
but there is. There's always two sides, there's pros and cons. And from my position that I stated to you, the safety of the town is my number one concern. And I'm going to hold that.
No bearing.
That will not change,
Where the barracks are located,
ever.
it has no bearing on the level of safety. Our community is rated A+, where the barracks are located now. And they respond from the road, wherever they are. So regardless of where the barracks are located, the response time remains the same. Has no effect on
And I
crime
respect
whatsoever.
that, and that's
That
debated,
argument has
yeah.
been used to strike fear into people. You accuse us of trying to strike fear into people. We're not. We're just trying to educate people based on what we've researched. And I really believe, everyone is saying that it's a done deal, but there's still conversation that can take place, and you can still represent us and say, look, we thought this was a good idea, but we've heard the community say that they're really upset. This is not what they want. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see what other options we can put on the board and let everyone be happy. You know, we
And
want-
believe me, when I tell you, I have communicated that folks are upset. Much like yourself, I have not gotten a response back. I've even reached out to our senator through that office. I can only do so much. I am trying. I have tried, so.
We're not giving up. Please don't give up.
I had a conversation with our state senator on the same thing. He approached me about it, and I told him they are upset. He does know. I also said that I was concerned about the safety and the crime in the town going forward as it grows. He's well aware of it.
I think
And I'm sorry, yeah, and I just one more statement. And just as a side note, it is still, I think he's now a major, Latardo. He still is the contact for state police. So whether or not that makes a difference in addressing any correspondence, you may want to try that and see how you make out. But he's a major now.
I think that the point here, which to me, is that we never said we wanted the state police to leave. Okay, I guess I'm still struggling with how the decision was made that this is the only piece of property in all of Malta that the state police could go to. I just, for the life of me, I can't understand it. And it's like the state police were making all the rules. Like, they had to have this piece of property, it was gonna go this way, it was gonna go that, I mean,
Well,
And I can't answer that. Obviously, I was not part of those talks. But I was not part of those talks. I
So,
was deputy, but I was not part of
Supervisor-
those negotiations at all. Cynthia, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you were on the board. Is there anything you can add to this that hasn't already been said?
I mean, I don't think so. Like John, it was a matter of, part of the problem was it was property that the town owned. They weren't willing to purchase property.
The state, right?
Right. As I recall, they're not moving the tower. The tower, I thought, was staying where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you have perspective on this, Supervisor O'Connor, came to us. He had some preliminary conversations and said, okay, this is a proposal. And that's what the catalyst was for ultimately the discussion, the several meetings, the public hearing, the permissive referendum, and the vote. There wasn't a public hearing on the permissive referendum?
No, there was a permissive
Okay,
referendum.
permissive referendum, then, yeah.
So I can
So-
clear up a few things. Sorry, John. I'm Town Attorney Steve Gottman. While I wasn't involved in the initial negotiations because they predated my taking the position, I did negotiate the land donation agreement to the state and am familiar with the facts. First off, it was all done in public. There was a permissive referendum, which is a requirement of New York State, and the town complied with it. I realize that the public isn't happy with that because they feel that the COVID situation prevented the town or them participating in it, but the town followed the law as required. And the purpose of that is to give the public opportunity when they usually don't have opportunity to participate in these things. It's unfortunate, but in a representative government, there's very few instances for public participation, and a permissive referendum is one of them. And I can't speak to why there was none filed, but there wasn't. Secondly, to Mr. Hartzell's point in the minutes, all these minutes are there, including a copy of the land donation agreement. They're available online and they're easy to find. So I think the town board has attempted to be transparent and continues to attempt to be transparent. To phrase it as this is the only piece of land that ever existed in Malta that could possibly house a police station was not the question. The question was that the town has had land since 1977 that was intended to be for a public purpose, and it wasn't used, and it was presented to the town board. Would you be interested in having a police barracks be built here on that land and fulfill the obligations in the deed that was given to the town? There were negotiations that occurred, including requests, Mr. Hartzell's suggestion and advice for long-term leases, for reverters in the deed, things to have it go back to the town. The Attorney General got involved, and the state will not purchase land with those requirements. And despite our efforts to include those things, they didn't occur. Went back to the board and said, look, are you still comfortable with this concept and donation? And the board opted to move forward. The fact that that happened during COVID, by the way, the town, of all towns, was open all during COVID. Town of Malta never closed. Some meetings had to be held online, and some changes needed to be take place, but this office and this town was open the entire time. And I think our board should be commended for that, and the people that worked through the pandemic. Many places that didn't happen, and some places still are not back. So all of this, to Mr. Hammond's point, he continues to work with the state police to try to get more information, and I think is willing to share that information with the public and understands the concerns of the residents. But again, it is owned by the state police at this point. The law was properly followed. Public participation was encouraged at 3 different board meetings, including a permissive referendum. And that's about the highest level of public involvement you can request in the state, in New York, is for a town under the permissive referendum requirements. And by the way, you can't do that except for certain circumstances. You can't mandatorily say we're going to put a vote to the residents, except for statutorily authorized situations like this one. So I hope that clarifies how we got here. It doesn't necessarily define where we're going, but at this time, Mark, I think continue to follow up with the police. As you asked, I'll reach out to the state police's attorney to get additional information about suggesting perhaps that they come to the town board or to the public when their plans are ready. And they may not be able to provide them yet because they're not completed plans. If you provide uncompleted plans, like a diagram saying it's going to look like a Walmart, it causes more angst than saying, hey, here's what we want to do. Let's hear your positive or negative feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve, for that clarification. I appreciate it. And just in parting, I don't want any of our residents to have angst over this or fear. We are truly trying to do the best that we can do, and we're not trying to push anything off on anybody. That's not what our job is up here. It's certainly not my job. So Thank you very much. With that, we will move forward with our town business. DOT East Line Road and Route 67 roundabout project designed at the Secra, and that's part of the Marchicelli funding. So that is for action tonight. And we'll wait till the folks leave.
Guess they're not interested.
They don't want to hear that part.
I would move the resolution, Mark.
Thank you, John. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. The second is that's a two-part resolution, is it not?
Two resolutions. First one was the seeker,
And the second one's the funding?
correct?
Okay. And do I have a motion on the funding?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Then we have the confirmation of a highway equipment operator for Rogers Crew.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. For possible action on 6/5/23 will be to approve the Multiple Water Assistance Grant Program. We had an application for that. And in closing, comments or questions from town residents that we have left in the room? Okay.
Move we adjourn?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned.
Thank
Thank you for bearing with us, folks, very much. Fucking people.